3 months ago, I was planning a wedding. I had a fiancé, a budget spreadsheet that was actually working, and a clear vision of what the rest of my life was supposed to look like. Today I'm single. And you know what? It's pretty great. The story of how I went from picking out floral arrangements to building my dream computer is complicated. But it all started with a simple choice: the person I was supposed to become versus the person I'd always been. My name is Ian Harris, and I'm 31 years old. Up until 90 days ago, I was happily engaged to a woman named Jessica. We'd been together for a little over 3 years, and those years were, for the most part, genuinely good. We clicked. We had the same sense of humor and wanted similar things out of life, or so I thought. 9 months before everything fell apart, I decided to make it official. I bought a ring, planned a whole evening, and got down on one knee. When she said yes, it felt like the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. My life was on track. The first few months of our engagement were a blur of excitement. We were a team, spending weekends touring venues and evenings debating the merits of a live band versus a DJ. We were building a life brick by brick. The most important part of that foundation was our budget. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We sat down like responsible adults and made a plan, creating a detailed spreadsheet for everything from the catering to the photographer. We agreed on a number, a hard limit. We shook on it. It was our pact, the financial blueprint for the biggest day of our lives. Now everyone needs a place to decompress, a space that's entirely their own. For me, it's a corner of our apartment. It's my office, my command center, my sanctuary. At the heart of it is my gaming setup. To an outsider, it might just look like a desk with a computer, but to me, it's a monument to 15 years of my life. It started when I was 16 with a game I'd bought after an entire summer of mowing lawns. From there, it grew through high school LAN parties and college Steam sales. After I graduated and started my career, the collection matured with me. It wasn't just about escaping anymore. It was about appreciating the artistry. It was my version of a library or a wine cellar. Each game on my shelf was a bookmark in my life. I could point to one and say, that one got me through a tough breakup, or my buddies and I spent a whole year trying to beat that raid boss. It was my history, a carefully curated museum of my life with an estimated value of around $7,000. Its real value to me was immeasurable. The engine that powered this whole world was my PC. I called it version 1. It wasn't a beast by today's standards, but it was mine. I'd built it myself, upgrading parts as I could afford them. I remember the sheer triumph when I hit the power button and it actually booted up. Every component had a story. The graphics card I'd bought after my first real bonus. The case I'd spent a month researching. It was a testament to my patience and passion, the product of my own 2 hands. This space, this collection, this machine. Jessica knew it was important to me. In the beginning, she seemed to think it was a cute, nerdy hobby. She didn't really get it, but she didn't have to. It was my thing, my way of staying connected to myself. And then there was the other symbol in our life, the one that sat on her finger, the engagement ring. It was beautiful, and it had cost me $5,000. I'd saved for it for a long time. It wasn't a family heirloom. It was a brand new beginning purchased by me, for her, for us. Every time I saw it catch the light on her hand, it was a reminder of the promise we'd made. It was the symbol of our future. But there's a funny thing about plans. They're fragile. They're built on assumptions and agreements, and all it takes is one person deciding the rules no longer apply to bring the whole thing crashing down. I had no idea that our carefully constructed blueprint for the future was about to be put to the test. And the thing that would cause the first crack in our foundation wasn't some big dramatic betrayal. It was a piece of clothing, a single $4,000 wedding dress. It was a Tuesday evening. I remember that specifically because Tuesdays were my quiet nights. Jessica usually had a yoga class, so I'd have a couple of hours to myself to just decompress. I was sitting at my desk, headphones on, navigating the neon-drenched streets of a cyberpunk city in some new game. The glow from the monitors was the only light in the room. It was peaceful. It was my routine. The front door clicked open earlier than I expected. I pulled off my headphones and swiveled in my chair just as Jessica burst into the room. She was practically vibrating with an energy that filled the entire apartment. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes were wide and sparkling, and she was clutching her phone like it was a winning lottery ticket. My first thought was that something amazing had happened, a promotion. A surprise from her family, I smiled, genuinely happy to see her so lit up. "Hey, you're back early. What's got you so excited?" She didn't even take her coat off. She rushed over her voice, a breathless rush of words. "Ian, oh my God, I found it. I found it." "Found what?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. "The dress," she squealed, shoving her phone in my face. "The wedding dress. It's the one. I tried it on and, Ian, I actually cried. The lady at the boutique said that's how you know. When you cry, it's the one." On the screen was a picture of her in a bridal shop. I had to admit she looked incredible. The dress was elegant and intricate with delicate lacework and a silhouette that seemed designed just for her. I could see the genuine, unadulterated joy on her face in the photo. My heart swelled. This was what it was all about, right? "Wow," I said, and I meant it. "Jess, you look stunning, absolutely beautiful. So this is it, huh?" "Yes, this is it," she said, pulling the phone back to look at the picture again, a dreamy look on her face. "It's perfect. It's everything I ever imagined." I felt a wave of relief and excitement. We were making progress. We were building towards our day. Then I asked the simple, logical, and as it turned out, catastrophic question. "So how much is it? Does it fit in the budget?" The energy in the room shifted like the air pressure dropping before a storm. The brilliant smile on her face didn't disappear, but it became tighter, a little more brittle. "Well," she started drawing the word out. She finally shrugged off her coat and tossed it on the couch, avoiding my eyes. "It's a little bit of a splurge, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, you know. It has to be perfect." I nodded slowly, my brain already pulling up the numbers from our spreadsheet. We had allocated a very generous amount for her dress. A splurge was fine. A little over was manageable. "Okay," I said. "How much are we talking?" She took a deep breath and put on her best, most charming smile. It was the smile she used when she knew she was about to ask for something she probably shouldn't. $4,000, she said, her voice trying to sound breezy and casual. I just stared at her. My own smile faded. The number echoed in the quiet room. $4,000. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just confused. It was like she had just started speaking a different language. 4,000, I repeated. "Jessica, our budget for the dress was $1,500. We agreed on that. A splurge would be $1,800, maybe $2,000, but 4. That's not a splurge, that's a whole new budget." Her breezy demeanor evaporated. Her face hardened and her arms crossed over her chest. The defensive posture. I knew it well. "Don't do that," she said, her voice sharp. "Don't just immediately go to the spreadsheet. This isn't about numbers, Ian. This is about how I feel. It's my wedding day. I'm supposed to feel beautiful, and that dress makes me feel beautiful." "I know," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I stood up and walked towards her. "And I want you to feel beautiful. But we have a plan for a reason. $4,000 is more than the caterer. Where is that money supposed to come from? We don't just have an extra $2,500 lying around." "We can find it," she insisted, waving a dismissive hand. "We could use the credit card for now. Or maybe your parents could chip in a little more." "No," I said, my voice firming up. "Absolutely not. We are not going into debt for a dress, and I'm not asking my parents for more money. We promised each other we would start our marriage on solid financial ground, not in a hole." The silence between us stretched out thick with frustration. I could see her mind racing, searching for an angle she hadn't considered. Then her eyes drifted past me. They scanned over my shoulder and landed on my sanctuary. My desk, my monitors, my PC tower humming quietly. Her gaze swept over the shelves next to it, the neat rows of game cases and collector's editions that represented 15 years of my life. A new kind of light came into her eyes. It wasn't the joyful sparkle from before. It was a calculating gleam. In that instant, I knew exactly where this was going. The knot in my stomach tightened into a ball of ice. "What about that?" she said, her voice soft and dangerously reasonable, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at my setup. "Your hobby." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, my blood running cold. "You told me once how much all that stuff is worth." She continued, taking a step closer. "All those games and things. What was it? $7,000. "Jessica," I said, my voice low, a warning. "Don't." She ignored me. "You don't even play half of them anymore. They just sit there collecting dust. You could sell some of it, just enough to cover the dress. It's a perfect solution. It doesn't go on a credit card, and we don't have to ask anyone for money. It's just sitting right here." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just talking about selling objects. She was talking about liquidating a part of me. "No," I said. The word was flat, final. "Absolutely not." "Why not?" She snapped, her frustration boiling over. "It's just a bunch of childish games, Ian. We're talking about our wedding, the most important day of our lives. Are you prioritizing a bunch of plastic boxes over that?" "It's not about the plastic boxes." I shot back, my own voice rising. "That collection is 15 years of my life. I started it when I was 16 with money I earned mowing lawns. It's mine. It's part of who I am. You're asking me to sell my past to pay for a dress you will wear for 8 hours. It's a symbol." She cried, her eyes welling up with tears. "It symbolizes the start of our new life together. Are you telling me that your video games are more important than that? More important than me?" The ultimatum hung in the air, unspoken, but deafeningly clear. She had reframed the entire argument from a disagreement about a budget into a loyalty test. My hobby versus her happiness. My past versus our future. She was demanding I prove my love by erasing a part of myself. I looked from her tear-streaked, demanding face to the soft, familiar glow of my monitors. I saw the spines of games that had been with me through thick and thin, the machine I had built with my own hands. Then my eyes fell on the $5,000 engagement ring on her finger, the symbol of a future I had willingly invested in. In that moment, a cold clarity washed over me. This wasn't about a dress. It was about respect, or the complete lack of it. She didn't see a museum of my life. She saw a cash machine. She didn't see a part of my soul. She saw assets to be liquidated for her convenience. The price of admission to this marriage was to sell a piece of myself to fund her fantasy. Standing there in the quiet of my apartment, I had to decide if I was willing to pay it. The silence in the room was heavy, broken only by the quiet hum of my computer's fans. I stood there looking at the woman I had planned to spend the rest of my life with, and I felt like I was seeing her for the first time. The tears on her face didn't look like sadness anymore. They looked like a tactic. Her ultimatum wasn't a cry for help. It was a power play. She was testing the limits of her control, trying to see what she could make me sacrifice. My hobby, my history, me. And for what? A $4,000 dress. A dress that cost more than my first car. A dress she would wear once. She was asking me to liquidate 15 years of memories, 15 years of saving and hunting and collecting for 8 hours of glamour. The math just didn't work. Not financially and certainly not emotionally. "Jessica," I said, my voice eerily calm. The anger had evaporated, replaced by a chilling certainty. "The conversation is over. I am not selling my collection." "So that's it," she sobbed. "You're choosing your stupid games over me." "No," I corrected her gently. "I'm choosing me over an unreasonable demand. There's a difference." I looked at the $5,000 ring on her finger, the one I had saved for the one I had picked out so carefully 9 months ago, dreaming of our future. It was supposed to be a symbol of our commitment, a promise. And what was a promise without respect, just an expensive piece of jewelry? That's when the idea hit me. It wasn't born out of spite or a desire for revenge. It was born out of a cold, perfect, undeniable logic, a symmetry. She wanted an extravagant wedding item that was far outside our agreed-upon budget. Fine. A wedding-related expense should be funded by a wedding-related asset. I walked over to her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue anymore. I just looked her straight in the eye and said, "I will think about it. I'll find a way to get the money. Give me until tomorrow." A flicker of triumph crossed her face before she hid it behind another sniffle. She thought she had won. She thought she had broken me. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Okay, Ian. I knew you'd see how important this is." She had no idea. I slept on the couch that night. Not because we were fighting, but because I needed the space to think, to be sure. By morning, my resolve was granite. I got up, showered, and put on a nice shirt. Jessica was still asleep. I walked over to the small jewelry box on her dresser where she kept her rings when she showered, and there it was, the engagement ring. I picked it up. It felt heavy in my hand, far heavier than its physical weight. It felt like an anchor. I slipped it into my pocket, wrote a simple note that said, "Gone out to run an errand. We'll be back this afternoon." And I walked out the door. I didn't go to a pawn shop. I went to a reputable jeweler in town, one who bought and sold estate pieces. I knew I wouldn't get the $5,000 I paid for it, but I also knew I'd get a fair price. The appraiser was a professional, quiet man who looked at the ring under a loupe. He checked the diamond, the setting, and the certificate of authenticity I had brought with me. After a few minutes of silence, he looked up. "It's a beautiful piece, well cared for. I can offer you $3,500 for it. Cash. $3,500. Not quite the $4,000 she wanted for the dress, but it was damn close. It was more than enough to prove my point. "I'll take it," I said without a moment of hesitation. The transaction was quick. I signed a few papers, showed my ID, and a few minutes later, I walked out of that store with 35 crisp $100 bills in an envelope and a receipt for the sale. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in months. It was like I had finally shed a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. I wasn't destroying a future. I was reclaiming my own. When I got home, Jessica was in the living room scrolling through her phone. She looked up, a hopeful, expectant smile on her face. "So," she asked, "did you figure it out? Did you list any of your games online?" "I did better than that," I said, sitting down across from her. I placed the white envelope on the coffee table between us. "I got the money." Her eyes lit up. She lunged for the envelope, her fingers tearing it open. When she saw the stack of $100 bills, she gasped. "Oh my God, Ian, you did it. I knew you would. How much is here?" $3,500, I said calmly. "It's perfect. It's almost the whole thing. I can cover the last 500. "Oh, thank you, thank you." She leaned in to kiss me, but I didn't move. I just slid the receipt across the table toward her. She stopped, confused. "What's this?" "Read it," I said. She picked it up. Her eyes scanned the paper, her brow furrowing in confusion. Then her eyes went wide. The color drained from her face. I could see the exact moment she understood. The paper trembled in her hand. "Sale of one 14-carat white gold engagement ring." She whispered, her voice cracking. She looked from the receipt to her bare finger, then back to me. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, and then to pure, unadulterated fury. "What did you do?" she hissed. "I did exactly what you wanted." I explained, keeping my voice level and calm. "I found the money for your dress. You made it clear that a single item for our wedding was more important than a part of my personal history. So I took that logic and applied it. I liquidated the single most valuable asset tied directly to this wedding, an asset that was by law a conditional gift. And since the conditions of respect and partnership were clearly no longer being met, I decided to reallocate that asset's value, a wedding asset for a wedding expense. It's perfectly symmetrical." She stared at me, speechless. The $3,500 lay forgotten on the table. "You sold my ring." "No," I said, standing up. "I sold my ring, and with that, I believe the engagement is terminated. That was 3 months ago. The breakup was immediate, hostile, and final. She screamed, she cried, she called me every name in the book. But none of it mattered. I felt nothing but relief. It was over. The very next day, I took that $3,500 and I didn't think about a wedding dress for a single second. I went online and ordered the components I had been dreaming about for years. A top-of-the-line graphics card, a brand new lightning-fast processor, more RAM than I knew what to do with. For the next month, I dedicated my evenings and weekends to a new project. I carefully dismantled my old PC and began to build. It was therapy. Every screw I tightened, every cable I managed, every component I slotted into the motherboard felt like I was rebuilding myself. I was transforming an old compromised system into something new, powerful, and entirely my own. When I finally finished the build, booted it up for the first time, and saw my new setup blaze to life, I felt a sense of pride and peace I hadn't felt in years. Now 3 months have passed. I'm 31 years old and I am single. My apartment is quiet. The shelves next to my desk are still lined with my gaming collection, all 15 years of it, untouched and complete. Its estimated value is still $7,000, but to me, it's priceless. The glow from my monitors illuminates the room. My new PC hums along a quiet beast of a machine running the latest games at settings I used to only dream of. There are no arguments about budgets, no ultimatums, no one belittling the things that bring me joy. There is no $5,000 debt for a ring and no $40,000 debt for a wedding. There is just me, my sanctuary, and the quiet satisfaction of a battle won. She thought the price of her dress was my collection, but I realized the true price of that marriage was my identity, and I decided I wasn't for sale. Looking back, selling that ring wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. It was the best $3,500 investment I have ever made. The best upgrade I made that month wasn't to my PC, it was to my life.